Good afternoon, everyone. Glad to be here with all of you. Just a raise of hands, how many students we have in this room today? How many students? You don't have to be shy. I'm not going to be asking you questions, just for academic interest. Okay, good. Pretty decent size. The next session is featuring the future. Good job. Featuring the future, it's on Indian animation. I hope you'll be a little interested. The previous session was extremely interesting. I'd like to introduce my panel in just a few seconds. Witness the transformation of Indian animation at a scale, the value chain from episodic content to feature films. This panel brings together experts who will shed light on the advancements and opportunities in the animation industry. Join us as we delve into the future of Indian animation, exploring its potential on both the domestic and international stages. Be prepared to be inspired by the incredible talent and creativity that India has to offer, one master animator at a time. I would like to invite on stage some incredible pioneers sitting out there who would talk us through the future and their idea of future of Indian animation, which is why I think it's going to be very interesting for the students who are sitting in this room. You are the future for us. With that introduction of our panel today, I'd like to invite Mr. P. Jayakumar. He's the CEO of Toons Media Group. He's a globally distinguished figure in media and entertainment industry. He pioneered the success story of kids and family entertainment major Toons Media Group, celebrating its incredible 25th anniversary next year. Starting his career as finance professional, Mr. Jayakumar has been the executive producer for many award-winning animated and live-action TV shows and feature film. Welcome, Jay. Next one is very interesting. I'm part of the panel today, but I'd be very interested to see what he's going to be sharing with us on the stage. He's Vaibhav Kumaresh. Vaibhav, can we get you on the stage? He's an international Emmy-nominated animation filmmaker and founder, creative director at Vaibhav Studios, Mumbai. Founded in 2003, the studio has created some of India's favorite animated content in the field of TV commercial, episodic series, and channel promos. The Amaran Battery ad campaign, I'm sure many of us can relate to, was part of this team. A fine arts graduate, Vaibhav studied animation filmmaking at National Institute of Design, Ahmedabad. He's an active committee member and honorary secretary of the Animation Society of India. Vaibhav also teaches animation and is a visiting faculty at various animation and design schools across India. Welcome, Vaibhav, to the panel. Last but not the least, has just flown from Paris, literally a few weeks ago, is Sean Muller. He was in India for about 5 years and back to India again because he loves us so much. Sean has worked with Technicolor since 2015, first as creative director for animation and game studio in Bangalore, and then as head of character animation and head of story for Micros home offices in Paris, and now back in Bangalore as associated global head of animation for all of Micros, overseeing work being done across our Montreal, Paris, and Bangalore studios. His background is primarily in animated feature films, starting with the original 1994 Lion King, Stuart Little, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatball, and most recently on the film Ozzy, Voice of the Forest, as a writer, head of story, and head of animation. So here we are with the panel, and we will share some presentations with you guys, and post that we will take some questions. Sean, I have actually first few questions for you, if you're okay to go with that. What changes in the animation industry do you feel are driving the increased involvement of Indian studio and film industry?
So speaking for us, for Micros in particular, with the clients that we have, a lot of our longtime clients are DreamWorks, Nickelodeon, Disney, Netflix. What we really saw was just the ballooning of projects with the introduction of streaming into everything. Especially once Netflix had Amazon, Disney Plus, Apple, all these different competitors. They were all trying to outdo each other with more and more projects, and they were running out of studios to basically send the work to. So that kind of forced features to start happening more just outside of just Los Angeles, outside of just Canada or Paris, where we've been doing features for quite a while. So that was one big factor. The other factor is a never-ending desire for higher quality at lower prices. Always, like the budgets always go down as they ask for higher quality. So that really makes places like India, where you can work at a lower budget, much more important to the process. So yeah, those were the two main things that really affected our work, our studio here getting more and more feature work.
Great, thank you so much. This question has been lingering actually from yesterday, so either of y'all can take it. What are the biggest differences between the artist community here in India versus the artist in the West, and how we can be as incredible as we are already and just up our bar? Could be either of you.
I don't think there is any fundamental difference. I think our artists are equally, capable with any other countries. The problem is the exposure. When you really compare a 15-year experienced and a highly experienced person who worked on high-end projects, you can't compare that person with an Indian artist who doesn't have that exposure. So I think, and when we really do more and more high-end projects, I think we will be equal, or more, kind of capable than that.
Sean, you've just returned from the West, so what do you think is a starking difference for just the students out there in the room?
Yeah, and I would agree exactly with the answer that was just given. And I found the exact same thing. It's the exact same level of talent. It just comes down to opportunity as the biggest thing. The other difference that I saw, because it's a newer industry here, my first time working with a studio in India was in 2010. I was already about 20 years into my career at that point. A lot of us in the West, where there's been animation industry for many decades, we're feeling kind of jaded. You've gone through the process a bunch of times. You've seen all the politics going on in films. You got into it to be an artist, right? And then there's all these politics that you have to deal with. So you get a little frustrated and stuff. And I was feeling that way myself. When I came to work with a team in India, with it being a newer industry, the thing that struck me, and this speaks to a question that was asked earlier too about the attitudes in India towards animation as a legitimate career. I first sat down with all the animators on the team that I was going to be working with to meet them all. Almost all of them, this is like 120 animators, like at least half had very similar stories about, oh, my parents sent me to school to be an engineer or a doctor or a lawyer. I dropped out without them knowing. I didn't tell them. And I went and found anyone I could to mentor me until I could get a job and then go back to my family and tell them, look, I can make a living as an artist. There was that much passion and drive for the art of animation that for someone like me who was coming in feeling a bit jaded, I found it really inspiring and motivating myself. It really kind of rejuvenated my own interest in the art form. So that was a huge difference, and there's still some of that, even though it's the industry has matured a lot since then. I still see a lot of that passion here is beyond, I think, what you tend to find in the West. And that's gone a long way towards facilitating now the higher and higher quality work coming here that we're going to talk about. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Would you like to show us?
Yeah, sure. I can leave this here, I guess. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to break everything. Okay. So yeah, I've got a little presentation that I put together. I can show you few interesting bits of video. Yeah. Which button is next? I'll just test it. All right, great. Okay, so yeah, the teams that I've worked with here have been incredibly hungry for the opportunities that I was just talking about that they haven't had. The big thing is, like we were saying, all these artists have an incredible amount of talent, just as much as anywhere else in the world, but without the opportunity, it's just been a lot of frustration. Like when I first came out to meet with the team at Technicolor Animation and Games, that's what it used to be called back in 2015 when I started, I was still interviewing for the job. I came out to meet the team, see what they were doing, see the studio, sort of a mutual interview so they could talk to me, I could talk to them. So it's this team that's been doing all episodic and some video game work, and I had a sit-down meeting with all the soups in the studios, maybe 15 or 20 supervisors. Within just a couple of minutes of meeting each other, no idea if I'm even going to work here or not, they're asking me, so can we do features here? And I had no idea. I'd never seen anything they had done. But it really told me right off the bat how much they had felt like they had been working with their hands tied, because episodic, and I'll show you an example of our reel from back in 2015. We're doing very strong episodic work, but episodic work tends to have quite low budgets and really tight deadlines. So that means just less time to refine your work. So there's only just so high quality you can reach when you're working that way. And actually, while we're talking about it, to give you an idea, this is, here's a sampling of some of the episodic projects that we've worked on when it was Technicolor Animation and Games, and now some of them continuing into while it's Mikros. And I will show you, this is, okay. Hold on, I'll start it fresh. So this is the animation reel from 2015. That's all episodic work that we were doing at the time, to give you an idea of where we were at then. Whoops.
I am not happy remembering. I am a king, remember?
You were born to dance.
Going to Broadway.
Whatever. Woohoo! We're doing it!
Other people's problems are so boring. Smile and wave, boys. Smile and wave.
Cool. So, thank you. So it is very strong work that the team was already doing back then. But like I said, with the budgets and schedules, that was at the maximum quality that we were able to achieve. The other thing that factored into it quite a bit was perceptions from Western studios of the Indian studios at the time, at least. That lack of opportunity, which had meant that the artists here couldn't really showcase their full talent, was misperceived a lot of times as possibly a lack of ability. So there was a real mindset from Western clients that animators here should be given, the animatic of a show, which is just the initial editorial pass with storyboards and the voice recordings and maybe temporary sound and stuff. They would be given the animatic, the animators would here. They had to very strictly copy the poses that were in the storyboard drawings. very strictly follow exactly the timing of when those poses hit in the animatic. So what you ended up having was all these super talented animators who were not being allowed to truly animate. They were just, they're what I called animation waiters. Like, they come to your table, oh, what would you like? Okay, yeah, I'll give you exactly that. Like, there was no opportunity to actually flex their creative muscles. And the side effect of that is also that the artists themselves kind of stagnated. They weren't able to learn because they weren't flexing those creative muscles. They weren't doing a lot of acting themselves where they would grow from project to project and become better and better actors, you know? They were just taking orders and delivering exactly what was expected. So what ended up happening then over time, in the first couple of years I was there, and not because of me, but it just happened to be going on already at that point, we had some long-standing clients that came to us over and over, DreamWorks, Nickelodeon, Disney. Our teams started forming really solid relationships with the teams on the client side, and there was a lot of trust built. At the same time, on the client side, they were getting busier and busier, so they had less and less time themselves. So between the trust and the need to share more, the door started opening more and more to allowing the artists to give actual creative input, to stray away from those animatics finally, and start developing their own performances and using their own artistic skills. We did a lot in the studio to facilitate that. We built out these acting rooms on every floor of the studio. Acting rooms that have like mirrored walls so you could see the acting performance you were doing from different angles. We'd have some common props in there that people could use, all that kind of stuff. That really helped. And then of course the other thing is, in order to use an acting room, you have to be able to act. And that was a pretty new thing for a lot of artists out here because of the situations I was talking about. And there were two really big things. One, there's a lot of shyness here. People would get in front of the camera and just freeze all the time. All these animators would just freeze in front of the camera, or they would just try and act out the shot, and they would act it out exactly the same way over and over and over again. So we had to do a lot of work to get people comfortable in front of the camera and encourage them to not do the same thing over and over, but get in front of the camera and try 10 different ideas, you know, see which one works the best, and then start refining from there. Because getting up and acting gives you a chance to very quickly try out ideas before you sit down and start working in Maya, you know, or whatever software you use. Sorry, oh yeah, and the other thing that we did was also bringing in acting coaches, some really amazing coaches. Ed Hooks is one of them, who I highly recommend to any animator who wants to learn more about acting. Because that's what's really at the core of the difference, to kind of get to the point of what this whole talk is. The core of the difference between episodic and features, which is the big transition we've done, is the level of acting. Features just demand a different level of acting than episodic does for a couple reasons. One, typically the feature is where brand new characters are being established for the very first time. So you have to bring a level of acting that believably makes that character real, right? A character that people can actually connect with and go through a whole story with. And two, and episodic tends to be basically taking those characters from a feature film and then carrying them forward afterwards. So it's a known character usually, compared to the feature developing them for the first time. The other thing was the structure of feature films is different from episodic. Episodic tends to be kind of about the day-to-day life of the characters that you're doing shows about. Whereas a feature is usually about the most impactful moment that's happened to a character in their life, something that makes them the character that you know them to be by the end of the film. So that requires, it's a strong character arc, and that requires a lot of attention to subtlety and details and stuff, where you've got a character that starts as one character and ends in a very different way. And all throughout, there's going to be incremental little changes that you have to work into your acting performances to show that character slowly changing over time. So it really does require a lot of attention to detail and subtleties that you don't get to explore in episodic quite as much. So these were all things that we focused on in the years that I spent as creative director in Bangalore. By 2021, when Animation and Games was rebranded as Mikros, I was already in Paris, and part of that was to act as a bridge between Bangalore and Paris on the first collaborative film that we were doing together between both locations. The film was called Ozzy, Voice of the Forest. It's scheduled to be released this year. Just to give you a really quick rundown of what it is, it's the story of a tween-aged orphaned orangutan who's living in a rescue center in Indonesia. She learns her parents are still alive, and on her journey to find them, she discovers that her whole island rainforest home is under threat by a palm oil plantation. I've got a work in progress clip from Ozzy here that shows it shows a good example of the acting challenges that were inherent to doing a feature project. And if you watch Ozzy, the little orangutan in particular in this clip, she in particular was a really challenging character to animate because she communicates so many multiple ways at the same time. She makes orangutan sounds, she uses body language, but she's also been taught sign language, and she has this little translation glove that turns that into a voice. So yeah, pay attention to that while you're watching this clip, and you'll see, compared to what we were doing on the episodic work, how much more demanding acting-wise this sequence is.
Ozzy, you can't say things like that.
But he was bald.
I know, but you are impossible.
Hey, special delivery for you, Ozzy.
For Ozzy? Who's it from?
About to find out. Wow, solar-powered 4K display. Cool.
My own tablet.
Who's it from?
Ozzy, we're inviting you to join our exclusive circle of influencers
Wow.
here at Green Star. Karani, you want to take a look at this?
Are they? I'm so sorry, but we need to send it back.
Mine.
You can't keep this. Trust me.
My tablet. My tablet.
Ozzy, it's not just the tablet. It's the place.
Mine.
You won't understand.
Mine.
I said no. I'm your mother, and that's it. You'll understand someday.
You are literally ruining my life.
So yeah, and that sign language is all accurate as well. So just to make it even harder for the animators, we wanted to make sure that that was true to the actual language of signing. So yeah, this was a huge step. This was the first film. The vast majority of the film was animated in Bangalore. A lot of the early, a lot of the development artwork, the writing, upfront stuff like that was done in Paris. Character modeling, character rigging, animation, and CFX were all done out here in Bangalore by the team. So it was a huge landmark moment for the team. And so since Ozzy started, Mikros Animation as a whole has actually, so that was 2021, has actually done 6 films, which is a crazy amount of films. You can see them all here. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that actually just came out around the world. Thelma the Unicorn for Netflix that's finishing production now. Ozzy is done, releasing this year. Tiger's Apprentice is done, releasing this year, I believe. Paw Patrol the movie is coming out shortly, and Orion in the Dark. So of those 6 films, 4 of them actually involve Bangalore specifically. Thelma was shared between Montreal and Bangalore primarily. Paris has a small team that's also helping out. I mentioned already what we did on Ozzy out here in Bangalore. Paw Patrol was another one shared between Montreal and Bangalore with some work in Paris. Most notably, though, is Orion in the Dark, the one here at the bottom, this last one. This is actually the first feature film that DreamWorks TV put together and hired us to do. And this is the first film that is being done 100% in Bangalore, excuse me, by Mikros Animation. A little bit of the animation during crunch time had to be shared with Paris just to stay on schedule, but aside from that, this was completely made and led by the Bangalore team, which was a really fantastic achievement. Couple of big things about Orion now that it's almost finished. The announcement by DreamWorks about Orion was made at Annecy, where they showed a couple sequences. They showed all the Orion stuff alongside Ruby Gillman, the Teenage Kraken, the movie that just came out. The difference on budgets on these 2 films, I mean, Ruby Gillman is over $100 million. I don't think I should say what Orion was, but let's just say it was a fraction of that. And the reception to both films was equally strong. And seeing clips back to back from Ruby Gillman and then Orion absolutely held its own up against the big budget DreamWorks film. And the other thing that was really fun was they screened Orion for the feature team at DreamWorks on their campus in Los Angeles. And apparently it really freaked out the feature team because they knew what the budget was on Orion, and they were absolutely shocked at the quality of the film compared to what they were doing at such a fraction of the cost. So that's definitely brought a lot of excitement and pride to the team here, and is definitely setting us up in a good place to be doing a lot more going forward. At this point, every film that we're in talks to take on next would involve Bangalore in one way or another. So the team here has really done a lot to prove themselves, finally getting that opportunity and really knocking it out of the park on every single one of the projects that they've had. And yeah, now we're just all excited to see what happens next. Yeah.
Sean, thank you so much. We have Jaya Kumar next. While Jaya is setting up, I may have a question for Vaibhav. Vaibhav, we saw a lot of content that Mikros has done out of India, right? But do you see India becoming the next destination for 100% animation being done out of India and the content being done out of India completely, which will stick with the audience? Sorry.
Yeah, I think that's already happened, and it's been going on for so many years. In fact, yesterday also we were discussing, like in terms of the quality of production or the level, international level of projects that our artists are working on. That's been going on for several years, like so many Oscars, so many amazing awards too. So I think it's not a new thing, we've already gotten into that groove, and we've started proving that through the services that we're offering. So your answer is like, my answer to your question is that it's already happening, it's there.
Yeah, I can actually second that response. MPC got Oscars for 1917, and a significant work was done out of India. And so was for Mikros. Shushan, that was incredible. Thank you so much. Jaya, back to you.
Thank you so much, Kranti. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, CII, thank you, Biren, for inviting me. So the topic is, the future is the animated feature. So I think, we have Sean and Vaibhav basically dwell with all the creative aspects. I, respectfully stay away. That is not my forte. So I think what are the reasons why the animated feature has a future, and Sean already explained the rise of streaming services. In the past few years, streaming services like Netflix, Disney, Warner Brothers, HBO, they all created a huge demand, and they are ready to pay big money, on animated features, giving animators more opportunities to create ambitious projects. So this has happened already. And also the other one is the increasing popularity of the CGI 3D animation. This is now increasingly popular, and it allows animators to create incredibly realistic and immersive worlds. Then the growing popularity of animation for adults. This is probably not relevant for India, because this is what we are trying to create. But definitely in the large Western markets, in US and Europe and all, the animation films are widely consumed not just by kids but also kids and families. Then the fourth reason is the advancement of technology. Because of the constant innovation in technology, and this is having a major impact, and you will be able to see the older films and the latest clips which was shown by Sean. You will see that kind of the differences that the technology advancement has brought in the industry. Now, how is these animated features are so different and unique from the episodic content? You all know the length. Animated features are typically much longer, allowing to tell more complex stories with more developed characters. They can range from 60 to 120 minutes. Most of the Indian films are longer, but in Hollywood it's 80, 85, 90 minutes. Where episodic content, nowadays anywhere from 7 minutes to 11 minutes to 22 minutes maximum. The storytelling, the animated features have a more linear way of storylines, because they have a limited time to tell the entire story, and hence need to get into the point very quickly. However, episodic content can afford and have more complex and serialized storyline, as viewers can follow the characters and storyline over multiple episodes. The next is the target audience, where the episodic content is very specifically targeted to a specific audience, 6 to 9 or 3 to 5 or preschool, whatever. But generally, for the animated films are generally targeted towards not just for kids, but for wider kids and family audience. And the style, animated features can have a variety of animation styles, from traditional 2D animation to computer-generated 3D animation. Episodic content, on the other hand, is often produced in a more limited animation style, as it needs to be cost-effective to produce multiple episodes. And what are the key aspects of making a high-quality animated film? These are important, especially when somebody really wanted to get into the feature film business. One is a strong story. I don't need to tell. The story is the most important aspect of any film, animated or otherwise. Need to be engaging, well-paced, and have a satisfied ending. When well-developed characters and the world, the characters in an animated film need to be relatable, believable, and likable. They should have their own unique personalities and motivations, and they should change over the course of the film. Then visually stunning animation, and now the audience requirements have completely grown, 10 years back to now. So the animation in an animated film should be top-notch, should be fluid, expressive, and visually appealing. The animation should also be used to support the story and characters. Now, the other key aspects is excellent voice acting, because here we are, kind of not selling the show to, basically using the major live actors. So voice is, in fact, I was attending a seminar, and one of the gentlemen was actually presenting a thing, and they say 72% of the success of the film or an episodic content, it really depends upon the OIS, the music and the OIS. So that is a very, very important thing. And then incredible music. The music in an animated film can really make the film, can set the mood, enhance the story, and make the film more saleable. So some of the key aspects for our industry, Indian animation industry, need to focus in order for us to make a mark in the future business. One is creativity. Our studios need to be, come up with creative and original ideas that will appeal to the audience of the world. Unfortunately, our local animation feature industry is not that encouraging so far. We have done one in 2006 with Anurag Kashyap, Hanuman Returns. That was probably the only show which was, commercially a successful movie. And after that, we haven't really seen a theatrically successful movie after that. So we ourselves are creating content for the world. So if you need to really cater to the world, then your stories need to be top-notch and appealing to that audience. The quality, obviously. Then marketing and distribution. And this is where I think, most of the people fail. It is not that they don't have a good story, but, they fail to understand that aspect of the process. Our studios need to focus more on marketing and distributing the film to wider audiences. And this is very, very important. You need to partner with an international distributor. If you wanted to go internationally, then you need to go with an international distributor and to get your films, kind of distributed theatrically across the globe. And obviously, government support. I'm so happy that finally the government is supporting our industry, and hopefully this will be enhanced next time. Now, when you really go to an international distributors, what are the things they are going to look at your film? Okay? And this is very, very important. One is story, because the distributors, you are investing as a producer, you are investing in the movie, but the distributor is also going to be an equal stakeholder because he's going to invest a lot of money on print and advertisement, and that could be substantial. For Hollywood films, $40-50 million films, the print and advertisement, the P&A cost can be $100 million, right? So that part is very, very significant. So what they will basically look at is, the first one is story. A strong and creative story continues to be the most important element. The second one is the director. If you have a director who has a metal, who has a track record, okay, then I think your ability to sell the movie to the theatrical distributors will significantly enhance. The third one is the cast and voice cast. Very, very important. I will show you in another slide. We are currently producing a movie where we got Snoop Dogg and Lady Gaga as a music. We were able to bring in an investor very, very easily. So the more you really, kind of create a package in a more, kind of a managed manner, ability for you to sell the movie and pre-sell the movie, which is, again, an important aspect of financing the film. These are very, very important. Visually stunning animation, we talked about it, incredible music, and then the marketability. The film needs to be marketable for a wide audience. This means that it needs to have a universal appeal and not to be specific to a specific country. And the last one is a strong marketing plan. The film needs to have a strong marketing plan in place in order to be successful. You need to create trailers, posters, and other promotional materials that will appeal to a wider audience. If you can actually bring in some brands onto the film, and we have a film where we have Snapdeal in the US came on board for $2 million worth of promotions. So that promotions is equal to money. So if you are able to bring those kind of things, the probability of success of your film will be higher. Now, how do we? I'm not talking about studios. They have hundreds of millions of dollars at their disposal. We don't have that. We are talking about $12, $15, $20 million films. So how do we finance the film? So we traditionally go with this model. We pre-sell, and that is where the the international distributor is so important. And this is also an external validation for us before we put our money, does the film has take us in the world. So that is something we always, kind of do that. Around 20 to 25% of the money we can raise through pre-sale. And if the pre-sales are from AAA rated distributors, you have banks ready to finance that. We haven't really tried any Indian banks so far because the interest rates are very high. I mean, now that advantage is gone because Europe is almost equivalent to Indian interest rates. But in the past, we used to get bank loans at 2%, 3%, which was fantastic. So you'll be able to actually finance that. And then there are gap lenders, 15%. This is the last money come in and first money go out. They will come in and take a risk. They will put up to 15% of the money. There are various gap lenders across the world. But from the film revenue, they will take the money in first position, but it's still better because your film will get made. We also use countries where tax credits are available. Very happy that in India is also, kind of getting into the league. We ourselves have facilities in Ireland and Spain and New Zealand. All of these places have varied level of tax credits and subsidies. We generally bring in around 30% of the total budget through subsidies, and the balance either we invest on our own or we bring in third-party equity investors. Early this year, January this year, we have launched our dedicated feature film division, which will be involved in full spectrum of feature. We will be distributing, we will be producing. The division's activities include translating our in-house content as well as title from other partners and third-party productions to big screen. We hired a gentleman named Ariel Veneciano. He was working with Mel Gibson's company, Icon, as the president of our feature division. This is a very nascent stage. We are only 7-8 months, but we have already green-lighted 6 animated feature films by collaborating with the global partners. So this feature film is already released in theaters in UK this year. It was premiered in Annecy, the Canterville Ghost. This show was done, the pre-production work except for the storyboard was done in UK, and the storyboard was done in our facilities in New Zealand, and the entire animation production was done in India, and the post-production was done in Ireland at our facilities. So these are the two prominent films in production. One is Pierre the Pigeon Hawk. That is the one which you probably can read, Jennifer Hudson, Snoop Dogg, and all those kind of, incredible voice talent came on board. We were able to bring in Anthony Davis, the famous NBA player, to invest $5 million into the film as an equity investment. So when you really package the film in the right way, you will have, kind of investors and distributors are interested to come on board at the very early stage itself. The second one is in terms of advanced development. We have already green-lighted. This is based on John Lennon of Beatles, Sea of Love. This is a $15 million, kind of film. I think that is it. Thank you so much.
Jaya, thank you so much. Vaibhav, you next. The question is for both of you. You spoke about story and you are head of story and you did produce Aussie. So how do we ensure that the content, is there a way that we create the content that sticks with India, is in India, it's all, done out of here and so on, and then we take it to the West? What is the best way to create a story and stick with it?
I think the story can come from anywhere. I think writing, generally, we tend to use Western talent simply because, they have the history of, kind of telling the story to the whole, the world audience. So that is what, but I don't think the story idea can come from anyone. We get ideas from, sometimes from books, sometimes from other franchises, sometimes, kind of an idea from somebody. how do you, I think, probably Vaibhav and these people are much, appropriate authority for telling this. But yeah, for me, I think, again, for us, because I'm not a creative person, so for me, it's all about external validation. So we send it to multiple people and ask them what is their opinion, and and one thing like this, distributors coming on board and believing in your film is the first most important step, because then we know that this is going to sell.
Thank you, Jay.
Yeah, to add to that, one of the key things with story that I've found is it's making sure that at the core of the story, there's a universal aspect to it. Like, say it's a movie about a heist where characters are going to go steal money or something. They're not just stealing money to steal the money. Are they stealing the money to be able to pay for their mother's surgery? A universal theme of love with family, love between a man and woman, whoever. So it's finding those universal messages of survival, love, all these sort of things that everybody can relate to, no matter whether it's a film about, like I said, a heist or some Indian mythology or something like that. As long as at the core of it is that universal driving thing that everyone in the world can relate to, then the story should be fine for anyone.
Thank you, Sean. Vaibhav, we are back to you. And Vaibhav is going to be, I think this is going to be interesting for all of us as well, what you share, because you are more on Indian content and future of animation in India. And that's what we're talking about. And you're going to be showing some unreleased content today.
Yeah.
So guys, it's an exciting one. Go for it, Vaibhav. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So, first of all, good afternoon, and thank you very much for this opportunity. So I'm just going to very, very quickly share our journey. Like Kranti mentioned, it's all Desi work, and we love doing that. So I'm just going to start with a small reel of the kind of work that we do. Okay, so it's a small studio based in Mumbai, and like you see, we love creating content in different mediums, whether it's hand-drawn, whether it's ink on paper, whether it's puppets, whether it's clay, whether it's digital 3D. So we are basically storytellers, filmmakers. We enjoy telling our stories to our audience, and over the last, say 25 years, we've really had a lot of fun doing that. I'm sure you may recognize some of the work that we've created. Many of you may have seen those projects. So basically, ये हम लोगों का प्रेजेंट और पास्ट आप लोगों ने देख लिया है. वी आर गोइंग टू डिस्कस द फ्यूचर. सो I'll not talk much. I've made some doodles, so I want to keep it visual. Like, you know what a picture is worth 1,000 words. So मैं कम time में ज़्यादा words fit करने की try कर रहा हूँ. So okay, so now if I were to analyze our past work, I'm मेरे जो ख्याल है मैं डूडल करके डालता हूँ. आई फाइंड इट ईजियर. स्टिल देख के मुझे क्या बोलना है समझ में आता है. सो आई थिंक वी हैव डन ओके डिसेंटली वेल इन द शॉर्ट फॉर्मेट स्टोरी टेलिंग. नाउ वी आर वेरी ईगर टू अचीव द सेम इन द लॉन्गर फॉर्मेट. सो Jaikumar ji mentioned, you know, the feature. So that curiosity is there in us, has been there in us for a very long time. We want to produce longer films, we want to tell longer stories, and we are at it. So okay, so my dad was in the army, so I grew up all over the country. So I've like soaked in a lot. Like this is an example I'm giving. Like जो पौधा होता है वो sunlight, पानी या जो mineral उसके आसपास उसको मिलता है, it absorbs all that and becomes a unique plant. So similarly, I had this amazing experiences of, you know, soaking up all the amazing cultures, stories, growing up. And of course, as a storyteller, I want to, you know, see that. I want to soak in all that and maybe put that in my films. But I don't find that. This is a very personal, this is my frank opinion I'm sharing with all of you. I don't get to see that excitement in the mass media, on television or on films. The kind of stories, the kind of experiences I have grown up with, I miss that a lot. And the next slide is a very, very important one. Like we, even in this conference, I'm very glad that, you know, we have government support finally for the entire AVGC sector. But इसमें थोड़ा दुख भी है मेरे दिल में. But you know, like we are catering a lot in the service sector. We are outsourcing a lot of projects. Yes, we are doing an amazing job. You know, Kranti, we were discussing Oscars जीते हमने, सारे awards जीते हैं. बट हम किसी और की कहानी बोल रहे हैं. मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि our potential is much, much more than that. You know, yes, we create amazing codes and you know, textures and modeling and rigs. We are the best technologically. We have working with the best budgets. But हम लोग at the end of the day, we are telling somebody else's story. So as a storyteller, as a filmmaker, I find that, you know, I'm enjoying telling my stories. I should see more of that, or I should stick to doing that, you know, because that is what I feel is I am realizing my potential doing that. So see, we are telling someone else's stories for audiences all over the globe, no doubt. But I find that these guys are a very, very unique bunch of audiences. All our career, you know, all our life, we've been telling stories to these guys. Okay, so, and these guys are a huge market, you know, they are everywhere, all over the globe. So why are we not making films for our own audiences? So, you know, make in India is amazing, but I always feel make for India is most important. You know, if I cannot entertain my own audience, how will I entertain the globe? Again, these are all my personal views. I'm sure we've discussed contrasting views in this conference, and that's the point of having, you know, this gathering where friends, colleagues, decision makers, we all brainstorm together. So I'm very happy to share these things. You can see doodles are very personal. So these guys, coming back to the chain of thought, these guys are all over the globe. And if I don't make films for them, who will? So that is what I'm realizing, and have realized over a very long time. And our studio, the entire team, has been extremely supportive of you know, this vision to make content specifically for your audience that you know. Because I feel that filmmaking, you know, we are in the business of filmmaking, storytelling, and it's very, very culture specific. मैं जब हिंदी में आपसे बात करूंगा तो बहुत ही एक अलग फील हमें महसूस होता है, right? So just a simple thing like language makes such a huge difference. So in these years of having made films for our audience, we feel that we know our audience well. We don't know a global audience as well. So local is what I know. I'll work with what I know. And global is a bonus. If the rest of the world loves that film, that's a bonus for me. But what I know is my audience. So I'm clear that I want to tell my story for my audience. So with that, our studio has been working on a feature film called Return of the Jungle. And let me share a glimpse of it. Like for that, सारे कैमरा वाले भाई बहनों प्लीज बंद कर देना अगर आपने अब तक बंद नहीं किया हो तो. This we've never shared. This is not on public domain. The first time I'm very keen to share it with this community. It's a small glimpse from the feature film that we are working on. It's a Hindi animated feature film, 100-minute film. So sincere request to all of you, please don't document, record any of this. It's all confidential, unreleased material. And I appreciate, your cooperation on that. चश्मा पहन के देख लूँगा. This is a small. ठीक है, तो lights आप बंद कर दीजिए और आवाज़ बढ़ा दीजिए. Sorry? There's a new anti-piracy act also. Okay, so यहाँ पे कैमरा भी लगा हुआ है किसी और. Okay, can I play this?
धरती के कई विशाल वनों में से ये एक ऐसी जगह है जहां
अबे वो छोड़
इस फ्राइडे को फैंसी ड्रेस कंपटीशन है.
तू भाग ले रहा है? इस बार का फाइनल जीतना है.
क्रिकेट फाइनल्स की ट्रॉफी कौन जीतेगा?
ताता इस साल ट्रॉफी का कोई चांस नहीं लग रहा.
मुझे नहीं लेना पार्ट फैंसी ड्रेस में.
लेकिन मैच का क्या होगा?
मैं क्या बन सकता हूँ ताता?
अब मैं तुम्हें एक सीक्रेट बात बताता हूँ. जो बाहर से दिखता है वो हमेशा सच नहीं होता. पर अगर आप अंदर से स्ट्रांग हो तो बाहर से जो चाहो बन सकते हो.
अब बस एक ही चाह है. हेलो
कैसे हो?
तुम लोगों की मैच में धज्जियां नहीं उड़ाई ना. मेरा नाम भी राहुल मल्होत्रा नहीं.
यार आप क्या करेंगे यार? मेरे पास एक ब्रिलियंट आइडिया. मगर मैं आप टेंशन मत लो.
जी तुम्हारी ही होगी. संगीत की ना कदर ही नहीं है.
क्या हो गया तुझे? इन लोग को देख के तो मेरा दिल भर आया.
अरे यार
So this is what we are aiming for the future. So I'm done. If we have little time, would you like to see one?
Yes, of course. We will take some.
Okay, so this is an item number from the film. Okay, we'll see this. And there are these folk tales that I grew up as a kid. So there's a lot of that poured into the film. So this item number is one of the folk stories. I'm sure you've also heard it.
आए हैं भगवान मिलके हो गुणगान. आए हैं भगवान मिलके हो गुणगान. आए हैं भगवान.
मन को आए, दर्शन करके सब सुख पाए।
इनके चरणों की ये धूल चढ़ते इस धरती में उनकी अपने देश पधारे, ऐसे सुंदर बाबाए।
हमारे सर पे तुम रहो, हमारे सर पे तुम रहो, वो बे खुशियों की बरसात, अपनी कृपा अपरंपार, हो बे फूलों की बौछार।
Okay, so I'm done. Thank you.
Vaibhav, this was super incredible. I think we should have had this session post-lunch. It would have just woken everybody up. Thank you so much. And we are good to take questions. 5 minutes. We started late. Thank you so much. Questions from the audience? Hi, Viren. Yes.
I have a question for Vaibhav. I would like Vaibhav to tell us how long have you persevered on this project? I think the audience and the students really need to know that.
Okay, see, as audiences, they don't need to know it. Let them just react to what the film is. Uske piche kya hua is none of their business. It's something, that's our responsibility. We need to live with that. But, we've been working on it for a very long time. When we wanted to make a feature film, we all know that there was no one to fund a Hindi or a Desi feature film. So we also had to raise the funds to make this film. And I'm very happy to share that, before the end of this year, the film will be ready for release. It's in the last stage of post-production. Background scoring is happening. So the production is all over. Foley effects, voices, everything is done. So it's an exciting last lap which we need to run. So, and it's the same team. It's a small core team of 17 people, 17 log. 70 nahi hai. 17 log hain. So it is their, belief and, their excitement. Like Biren was mentioning that RRR ke Tiger mein jo banane mein jo maza hai unko. I'm sure Life of Pi mein Tiger bana hai, bahut Tigers बनाए हैं हम लोगों ने. But एक देसी Tiger बनाने में जो मजा आया है, that maza we've, endured for many years. So it is that team, even though it's 17 people, it is just that passion which has made this thing possible. It's a very, very big thing for us. And we still haven't finished the finish line. So that's what propels you to finish it. And so I'm more keen to, hear from the audience. So, they don't need to know kitna time gaya isme. Ek film bani hai. And today we are exposed to films from all over the world. So this will be one more. But it's the film's job now. Like our job is almost done. Once the film is complete, it's the film's job to connect with the audience or not connect with the audience. So I'm more keen to, hear from the audience. Like Janta, what is that? Jagannath. Janta Janardhan.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Basireddy from Hyderabad, DG Quest. I'm also from the city where the animation company called Green Gold rocked the world to a great extent. Myself and Rajiv were very close to talk to each other. When I was the film president, became the film president, we had to shut his real movie down. Then I said, Rajiv, what is this? It's a combination of a animation and real life. He says, no. I'm getting into the real movie production. And then I says, you are such a successful animation company. Why would you want to jump into this? And then he says, there is not that much of a demand worldwide as much as used to be. So I know you people are in the field right now. Is it correct that there is not that much of a demand, such as Netflix or Amazon? They pull back with some of their contracts and agreements also. That's what I hear. I just want to confirm that. You people might know better, just to get myself educated, because we are starting an animated project. So that's the reason I just want to make sure that I won't put the money in the wrong place.
So there's sort of a weird mixed bag of things going on right now, because there are all these streamers, like a few of us talked about already, that started having need for more and more and more work. What we saw very recently that's affected a lot of studios in the world, like Netflix is such a giant in all of this. They had some new executive leadership come in that started reevaluating a bunch of the projects that were greenlit. So in some cases, some projects were pulled back, some have gone back into development. So we're kind of in a dip. But having just been at Annecy in France a couple months ago, the amount of projects coming, it's the floodgates are going to be opening back up again soon, as far as the amount of content that's being created. So yeah, I mean, it's, from what I've seen overall, it's on the rise. It's just got like little dips and peaks along the way, and we're in a dip right now, is what I've seen.
I think for the last several years, animation has always been oversupply. The reason is that, and there is a reason. The reason is that, compared to live action films, the live action film, the shelf life is very limited. Right, after a year, then the film will get, unless it is a classic film, its value get eroded. Animation is very different. Animation shelf life is very long, right? We are still in, kind of enjoying Tom and Jerry after 70 years, okay, minting money again. So the shelf life for animation, that is actually one of the beauty of our industry. What we create, the shelf life is, we created Tenali Raman in 2002. I make more money now than we made those days, right? So that if you really, kind of look at the supply of animation overall that way, there is always a, phrase in the market says that we are oversupply, but I believe every time, when the new generation come, their attitude changes, their requirement changes, consumption pattern changes, there always be a requirement for fresh content. So, but I think Rajiv probably might have told, or he expressed the dip in the recent times, but that is just a cyclic problem, I would imagine.
Hello. Sorry.
Yes,
okay,
so
we'll take two more questions.
So I wanted to ask, Mr. Sean had mentioned about how when artists come into this industry, they're filled with energy and passion, as you see in India, and then you discover the politics and how commercialized everything is, and it starts lowering down a lot of employees and people's motivation. So now that India's industry is really, really young and we have the potential to go in any direction we want, how can we learn from the past and what's happened maybe in the US, and also learning from their good points like the artistic things in France and Paris and Annecy, and build a strong foundation of good values that will make sure we don't create a culture where artists end up feeling exploited and drained out in the end of the day?
Yeah, that's a big question. I mean, there's one thing that I think really helps with the projects that end up here. Okay, so I was at Sony Animation for many years, where we were working on very large budget films. I had always thought that huge budget films meant that you could do anything you want. It was going to be so amazing and stuff. What the truth that I found is a bigger budget means tighter handcuffs, because that film needs to appeal to the entire globe. It's called the 4 quadrants: young, old, male, female. It has to appeal to everybody. what happens here, kind of as a byproduct of the earlier mindset of just going to India because it was cheaper, lower budget projects come here, lower medium range budgets, where you get lots of creative freedom. You don't have to appeal to everybody in the world for the film to be a success. So on that level, I think it's just inherently a little bit more inspiring projects to work on. Like I've found, that's one of the reasons I am with Mikros now, because I find these mid-range budgets to be the more fun, creatively challenging films to work on. So that's something I think the industry here benefits from. As far as learning from the past, I mean, I can speak for us, for Mikros specifically. Like we're this dip in the industry we were just talking about. We're using this time to make sure that everything is set up smartly and really artist friendly. As far as our whole pipeline, the tools we use, the way we have all the different departments working together, all that kind of stuff. So that's a big thing, because it was brought up earlier how technology keeps advancing and stuff. So to keep up with that, you want to make sure that you're using it all in the best way. And the other good side effect of mid-range budgets is there tends to be less executive meddling in the stories and stuff. That's honestly a big part of what kind of kills artist inspiration and makes the budgets become so big, is that story is a very easy thing for everyone to have an opinion on, whether they're qualified to have one or not. It's one of those things that anyone can speak up and feel like their opinion is equally as valid to somebody who's got tons of story experience. With lower range budgets, it tends to be more left in the hands of the artists, I think. So I think that's a key thing to keeping it inspiring and keeping the actual projects that we do entertaining and original.
I'll go to the back of the room. You had a question. Go for it. Can somebody get him a mic? Okay, probably you one, and then the last over there, and then we can take this over lunch.
My question is from Mr. Sean. When he talked about the film Orion and the Dark, he mentioned the budget to be merely a fraction of the high-budgeted films that DreamWorks Animation produces. So my question exactly here is, if the people in India, especially Bangalore, you mentioned the whole movie was done in Bangalore, the production. So if they can produce the same level of quality or even better, as you said, they were shocked by seeing the level of production in the movie. If they can produce that level of work, so why the budget has to be tight in these kind of situations?
Yeah, that's why it freaked them out when they saw it. Because that's the big question then that comes up is, how is this going to challenge, how is this kind of thing going to challenge the traditional model of these big budget animated films? I mean, there's definitely different markets for larger budget films, medium budget, lower budget films. I think they can all exist together. But it is definitely putting the pressure on some of the bigger, more traditional structured studios to figure out how they can compete in an expanding market like this. And I think we have seen, at least from what I hear, a lot of the budgets are coming down a bit at some of these larger studios as well. They're making efforts to try and control it more and because they've seen what can be done for less. But again, this also goes back to what we were just talking about with I think some of the pressure is going to be on some of the executives to step back a little bit and let the artists carry these projects forward if they really want to be able to compete budgetarily.
Thank you.
Yeah, my question is with Vaibhav Kumresh. Myself, I am a veteran from Indian Air Force community. And first of all, I congratulate you that from our defense fraternity, one person has came up and he's making such good film. So, on congratulations, I want to ask you one thing. Like, when we will be able to see a national patriotic animated film made by Vaibhav Studio?
You saw a little bit of it just now.
Yeah, but national patriotic film.
A patriotic film.
Yeah.
For me, this is patriotic.
Okay.
You know, if I'm going to invest money to entertain my audiences,
where we can see more,
that's my version of patriotism.
Where we can see more about Air Force, Army, Navy, and national feeling to come out.
We'll get there. I'm sure, there are many other animation production houses that are also, creating a series on freedom fighters. So there are multiple such ideas going on. I think everybody will contribute in their own unique ways. That should be the way, that's how it should be. So for me, more important is that we make indigenous films. Now, whether it is patriotic, whether it is entertainment, whether it is horror, whatever the genre may be, we need to encourage indigenous film. By that, I don't mean films made in India. I mean films created by Indian artists. So scripted, directed, produced by Indian artists. It should be their story. So if that gets, I'm very keen actually to see how the IP section in the AVGC policy works out. We discussed something about the research and development in the past session. There was also a little mention of IP. So I'm very, very keen to understand what there is in it, because that is the future. Otherwise, धंधा हम लोगों का 20 साल से चल रहा है, आगे भी चलता जाएगा. आज अगर यूएस में आर्टिस्ट स्ट्राइक कर रहा है तो हम लोगों के पास धंधा नहीं है, हम उनके ऊपर डिपेंडेंट हैं. Our film was not dependent on anything else. So I'm very happy that way, that an ecosystem, an Indian animation industry will only happen when we make indigenous content. Otherwise, we will have an animation industry that is based in India. It won't be an Indian animation industry. It's an American or a European animation industry based in India. That is my view. So unless we make content for our audience, like what our live action cinema is doing so beautifully, whether it's Malayalam films, Telugu films, Kannada films, Hindi, Bangla, Punjabi films, Bhojpuri films, they all have such amazing markets locally. So animation is just another genre, it's a film. So the focus, now that AVGC is in focus, indigenous creation of indigenous content for India is what I'm gunning for. I would like to hear your views. हम लोग तो बोलते रहेंगे, but this interactive thing is what is very, very important.
It's a very national anthem moment, but those ladies are glaring at me. We'll take one last question. We started late, brain took our time. So between the two of you, please.
I just have a small question. How is ChatGPT is going to affect the character artist?
Okay, there's another question. We can probably take both.
Thanks for squeezing me in. I just want to inform the gentleman there that the more traditional ways of depicting patriotism through animation is a project with the Defense Ministry actively pursued in the run-up to the 75th year celebrations, and Arena and MAC were very, very close to finalizing a list of around 75 movies on Gallantry Awards made exclusively for the Ministry of Defense. So that's a very active project, but that apart. My question to really Vaibhav, I would presume, is that how important do you think is the role of franchising and merchandising? Is it a significant share of the revenue which you would anticipate for movies of your sort? As a percentage to your total anticipated revenue? We've seen Chota Bheem, and we talked about Green Gold, make a very big success of that. Is that something on your plate?
Yes, we have merchandising, we have AR and VR, we have physical games. But for us as a small studio, it's most important to first finish this huge mammoth thing, so our focus is very clear because everything else is based on this core nucleus. So we need to make this properly. And we are excited with a lot. In fact, a lot of prototyping in terms of toys has already begun. We are doing our scripting for episodic formats. And this is one of the first in a series of 3 feature films. So one is done, 2 more are in various stages of pre-production. So there's a much larger plan. It's a property that's being built. So, and I think, he would be the best person because they've done it. Your question is already answered by them. They've done all the.
Chota Bheem should not become an exception.
I think regarding the ChatGPT, I think the several studios, including ours, are also using ChatGPT for short form content to produce scripts and stuff. But I don't think that is good enough for a feature film because, like Wipehouse told us today, it's about the director's vision. It is about the storyteller, telling the story. I don't think it is anything about artificial intelligence. I think ChatGPT is definitely a good tool, even for our administrative purpose. It basically will increase your productivity to 10x. I'm a huge believer in that. How you utilize that tool to your advantage is up to you. But for our creative, kind of things, I think still human intelligence is required.
We end the session here. Thank you so much, Sean, Jaya, Vaibhav. It was very interesting. And thank you, audience. It was lovely to have you guys in the room and staying until this time. Sorry to eat into your lunchtime.
Thank you, panelists. Would request Mr. Ghosh to kindly hand over the token of appreciation.
Thank you very much. You got the ladies first. Well done. Yeah, as always.
Can we have a group photograph, please? Can we have a group photograph, please?
Because my cap color is different from this thing.
We'll break for lunch and then reconvene at 2 p.m.